gentlemen, that's you.
No, this ain't Raymond.
I'm Raymond. You're watching RPadTV, and thank God the show has started because Paul was about to tell us about his preferences for adult videos, and I was just not.
Well, you know, when I take matters into my own hands,
so to speak. But yes, thank you for hanging out with us. This is our final episode of the year, and I'm joined by the excellent Paul Semel and the amazing Ray Carsillo. And today we're going to talk about our favorite video games of 2025. We're going to each pick a runner-up and our favorite, but also talk about games that we didn't get a chance to play, games that disappointed us, and things that just missed the list. But before we get to that, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about Rob Reiner, who tragically was murdered this week. Big shock to us all. But that man was such an influence on American pop culture. I mean, when I was a kid, my parents used to leave me with this Jewish couple down the hall, and they would watch All in the Family reruns all the time. So Meathead was one of the formative influences of my youth. But later on, I got to watch things like Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, and so many other amazing films that he directed. I wanted to ask you guys, what were some of Rob Reiner's works that you were a fan of that influenced you? Ray, let's go with you first.
Well, I don't know if they completely influenced me, but my two favorite films of his are When Harry Met Sally and The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the two. Since we're doing two of everything tonight, those are my top two Rob Reiner films. I think those are as close as perfect comedies that you can get, or rom-coms, right? Like, what was it? I had a performance on Tuesday at the Broadwater here in LA, and there's a bar next door called The Plunge. And so everybody obviously goes to the bar next door immediately after a performance. And the Princess Bride was on. They were doing obviously their own Rob Reiner tribute as well. And we all just stopped talking. We just all sat and watched, and we were all going almost line for line with the film in the bar as we were drinking. And it is just
fantastic.
Yeah. So that and When Harry Met Sally are just two of the greatest films I've ever seen.
Completely agree. The Princess Bride to me is like one of a handful of perfect movies where I wouldn't change a thing.
Nope.
How about you, Paul?
I'm also going to go with The Princess Bride. I can't tell you how many times I've said goodbye to somebody and they're starting to walk off, and I'll be like, "Have fun storming the castle." For me, the other one that I always really loved is the first Spinal Tap.
Oh yeah.
Which as a rock guy, it's hilarious. And it's one of those movies that is kind of like LA Story in the sense that the more you know, the funnier and also unfunnier it gets, because you're like, oh God, that's not an exaggeration. I looked things up at the number of people in bands who've admitted to getting lost in the backstage area. And you'd be surprised. Jimmy Page was on that list. I was like, wow, okay. And the weird thing for me was I hadn't seen the sequel yet, and it was on HBO on Friday night, and I watched it Saturday afternoon, which was literally a couple hours, and then a couple hours later, news broke about this tragic circumstance, and it was just wow.
Weren't we talking in last week's show? Weren't we talking about Ron Howard and Laverne and Meathead being some of the biggest directors from the 80s and 90s?
We did. And I remember saying to you that I thought the sequel to Spinal Tap wasn't going to air. It was supposed to air that weekend, but
oh right, yeah.
And then for some reason it didn't come up on the schedule, and it was weird because for whatever reason on my cable box, if you go onto HBO, it says Spinal Tap, 3 hours 15 minutes, and I was like, that's not right. And what happened was they would show Spinal Tap and then go right into Spinal Tap 2, but for
Oh.
some reason they didn't program it correctly. So
Right.
like all this week, like every day, it's like it says like, you know, this is Spinal Tap 3 hours 15 minutes, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not right.
Or is anything more right than that?
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, if they had said like this is Spinal Tap, this is Spinal Tap 2, that would
Right.
it would make sense. But like, because
Yeah,
it's not. Yeah, I mean, they definitely work well together, but it was a, you know, sort of a glitch. But anyway, yeah. So the prince, I think you're right in The Princess Bride is one of the most. I think it's one of the most classic movies. It's one of the. It's just funny and it's weird, and it's a movie that you can watch as a kid and really appreciate, and
Yeah.
then you watch it as an adult and you're like, oh man.
yeah.
And like just some of the stuff, like the performances, you know, Inigo Montoya and Inconceivable. I mean, like
Yeah, I mean,
Andre the Giant.
that movie introduced me to Wallace Shawn, and I will be forever grateful for that. That man is incredible.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's like you have your line, have fun storming the castle. One of my friends and I, we always say to each other, like, RUSs, I don't believe they exist. You know, stuff like that. Or does anybody have a peanut? Is another one, especially when you're drunk and trying
Yeah.
to do it in Andre's voice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those movies are fantastic. Stand By Me, that changed a lot of ways that I saw movies starring kids. Like, you know, I think of kid movies as kid movies like Goonies or something.
Right.
In my head, I never thought a movie starring kids could be a great film, and Stand By Me absolutely was. The other one is A Few Good Men, which is one of my favorite movies, but I think of that more as an Aaron Sorkin thing. I'm just a fan of his writing and that style of writing and cramming as many words per minute as possible. But I will give Rob Reiner plenty of credit because I don't like Tom Cruise really. And that was probably the most likable Tom Cruise has ever been to me in A Few Good Men. So I will give him full credit for that.
It's funny that you mentioned Aaron Sorkin because he also collaborated with Rob Reiner on a movie I really like, The American President.
Yes, I love that one too. Yeah.
Which is it's also a romantic comedy, but it's really different than When Harry Met Sally.
Wow.
And it was funny too, because like when Rob Reiner, when they started talking about Rob Reiner possibly being dead, I started thinking about all the movies that he made. And this is something that's been obviously a lot of people have talked about, just the breadth of movies that he made. Like you look at, and this is the thing, I imagine this conversation probably happened this week and will happen like all the time for many, many years, where somebody has that realization, wait a minute, the guy that made The Princess Bride also made When Harry Met Sally. The guy who made Spinal Tap also made A Few Good Men. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Misery's on that
Misery,
list. Yeah, like
Stand By Me. I mean,
and he was Meathead. So,
and he was Meathead, right? You know, I mean, he was just really, really funny. I hadn't seen it, but like there was a video going around of the scene that he is in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is just filthy, but like funny as hell. And like I was like, yeah.
He does a small role in what is that? What is that movie that's really about the Clintons and with John Travolta?
Primary Colors.
Primary Colors. Remember he plays the radio host on that.
Right.
A small role, but that's also another one of my favorites. But yes, Rob Reiner, thank you for the great works that will stay with us for the rest of our lives and for decades to come. If you have a favorite Rob Reiner work, I'd love to hear about it. So please leave that in the comments section. Now,
I would recommend to people because this is one they may not have seen. He recently did a documentary about his friend Albert Brooks, also an iconic comedian. It's really, really good. And it's really, really fun to watch the two of them sit there and talk about their past together. So that's one I would definitely recommend because you've probably seen all the other ones.
Yes, but nothing wrong with watching them again.
Yeah. No.
So Paul, let's get to a comment first.
Oh.
Another fan of Stand By Me. Yes. Oh, by the way, did you read the Corey Feldman news this week? I'm sorry. Where he claims that he was molested by Corey Haim during the filming of Lost Boys. I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm
Okay.
not. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, well, one of you can't defend yourselves on that one. So, yeah. But Paul, let's kick things off with your runner-up game.
Yes. One of my favorite games of the year, the runner-up, Doom: The Dark Ages.
Yes.
Which is probably the most unadulterated fun game, unrelenting fun game of the year in some respects. For people who don't know, it's sort of a prequel to the recent Doom games or all the Doom games, and it's set in a medieval world, but not entirely, because you still have guns and there's still like technology and stuff. This is a gun that basically chews up skulls and shoots them at people. But you also have this shield, which you can use to block, of course, and you can use it to smack people. But you can also fling it really hard at people, and if the enemy is on the weak side, it will just cut them down like blades of grass. And if it's big, it'll get stuck in them and basically like renders them kind of like immobile for a split second so you can shoot them. You can also use it to do this power move where it's like you hold the shield in front of you and then you fly forward and you just slam into people. And you can also use the shield to get around. It can go through weakened barriers. It can like be used as a point for a grappling hook. It can be used as a gear in certain machines. It's just so much fun. It's just, like I said, it's unrelenting and it's just effortless. And like the game isn't perfect, mind you. There's some things like there's a part where you're basically like piloting a giant mech in the beginning of that is kind of whatever. Although those parts do provide like a little sort of respite from the unrelenting running around shooting everything. By the way, this photo is not an exaggeration of how like you literally will fight an entire crowd of like demonic enemies at some time, and it's just so much fun.
So 2 questions for you. When you're doing shield stuff in this game, do you ever sing "When Captain America Throws His Mighty Shield"?
No, but you will think of him because it's a lot like that. And it comes back to you like, like his shield always does, even though it's not
right.
Wasn't crafted by, Idri the elf or the dwarf rather. It is. It's funny too, because I think I may have said in either my review of the game or my preview of the game that like the people who make this game should be given the opportunity to make a Captain America game because it's very Captain America-ish in that regard.
That would be cool. Do you remember the developer off the top of your head?
id, I think.
It was id, yeah.
It was id. Yeah. It's always like with id stuff, like there's always that moment of like, did id make it or did id help someone else make it?
Right.
Because they do that sometimes. Like the Wolfenstein games used to be id, but then they went to Machine Games, but Machine Games are overseen by id when it comes to that stuff. So
I wanted to talk to you about the art style, because this is like, I remember there was this kid in, I think it was grade school, who would always like draw like Iron Maiden kind of things on his notebooks and stuff. And when I see the art in this game, I'm like this is Henry's vision like come to life.
There's definitely things where like you're walking around and you're like, that's a Dio cover, that's an Iron Maiden cover, that's a Judas Priest. Yeah, it's definitely influenced by the same things that like a lot of that fantasy art that was of course went on to inspire very many heavy metal album covers. A lot more than like the other games. Like the other games have been sort of science fiction-y, like the first game you're on like a base on Mars, and the second game you kind of leave that and you go to Earth. But there always was these kind of demonic creatures that looked like, things off like, a Crocus album cover.
Well, yeah. I wanted to ask about this guy. Like, why is Steve Bannon in this game? Like, how did he?
Yeah, well, the satisfaction of shooting Steve Bannon is of course only
I'm not, I'm not
beaten
touching that one.
by is only beaten by the guy that looks like Stephen Miller, but like yeah, he's one of the big guys where like if you fling your shield at it, like your shield gets stuck in his chest,
Yes.
and he can't like do anything. He's kind of like, ow, fuck, and like then you can shoot him with
That's
the
realistic.
bone
though.
gun.
If
Yeah.
Captain America threw his shield at Steve Bannon, it would just get lodged in one of his folds or something.
Yeah.
Ray, did you play this game at all? I mean, you play a lot more games than I do.
Yeah, I did. I had this ranked 15th on my games of the year list.
Wow. Okay.
Way down there. Did not enjoy it nearly as much as Paul did. I think it's actually the worst of the 3 Doom games that they made since the
Really?
relaunch. Yeah. I was not enamored with it. I kind of felt like the gameplay got to be very repetitive, especially as you dragged on. I liked the shield, to your point, but I 100%ed this. I did found everything. I did everything, all the missions and side stuff. I just was just kind of like, okay. Yeah, like I didn't hate it. I just was kind of just like it didn't grab me the way the previous 2 did. And I felt that the medieval motif was not enough to kind of like differentiate itself from the 2 previous games to be like, oh yeah, this is something special. This is a big step forward for this series. It just kind of felt like, okay, I've done this before. It's been there, done that. Like, I don't know.
Okay, let me ask you a question though.
Yeah.
Do you think you might have liked it if they had gone full medieval fantasy with it?
That's not
like
what
if instead of giving you you still have the shield, but instead of having guns, you had like melee weapons, like swords. And
yeah, I mean, maybe because there were melee weapons, but they were definitely very, very secondary. They were you had the three charges of them or whatever. You had your fist. I think you had a mace. I think it's something, but like you could only use
right. But it wasn't like it wasn't like a melee game. Like
no, it was like still, and that's the thing is I still found myself using like the super shotgun still like 90% of the time, right? Like I just found I got into my groove. And for better or worse, I just was like, there's no reason for me to ever leave this groove now. And after, what was it, 21 levels, I think, or something? Yeah. I was just kind of like, okay, like this could have ended like 6 levels ago, and I would have been like a lot happier. And just was like, and again, I think to your point, the story was just kind of like, I don't know. I get it. The whole dimension hopping thing and the Doom guy being the savior of all humanity across time and space. And I was just
but the story has never been.
No, it's not. It's not
the only Doom game where I ever really liked the story was Doom 3.
Yeah,
which was like kind of a reboot, and it was the one where like you should have had a flashlight, but you didn't, and then later like. And then everybody modded a flashlight into it anyway.
Yeah, no, I just didn't. It didn't jive with me as much as it did Paul. Again, it wasn't a bad game. I don't think it was a bad game. I just don't think it was. I don't think it came close to the game of the year conversation this year. Whereas the previous Doom I felt was much better. Doom Eternal.
I mean, I'm glad that Paul enjoyed it, but it also understand that you didn't enjoy it as much.
I'm not here to yuck Paul's yum. Like, good on you, my friend. I'm glad you enjoyed it more than I did.
Yuck my yum.
Yeah, and Paul is wrong about many things, like Andor, and I will never let the world forget how Paul hated Andor. But let us move on to my runner-up, which is actually the fourth platform I played this game on. Final Fantasy Tactics is actually my favorite game ever of all time. I originally played it on PlayStation. It was later released on PSP. It was later remastered for mobile platforms, so I played it on my iPad as well. And now I have a remastered version with new voice acting on PlayStation 5. And this is just everything I love about video games, particularly Japanese RPGs. It's Final Fantasy's job system, so I'm always down with that. It has long turn-based battles based on grids. It has chocobos. It has cool characters with different abilities, You have your range guys, your melee guys, your healers, your magic users, and you can pick and choose to fight these battles any way you see fit. But story is fantastic. The music this is one of my favorite video game soundtracks ever. A lot of the chapters of the games are named after Queen songs because the director is a massive Queen fanboy. One of his previous games was Ogre Battle, which you might know if you're a Queen fan. You will know Let Us Cling Together, which is actually the subtitle of Ogre Battle. But yeah, he has chapters in this game like called Somebody to Love, which is obviously an iconic Queen song. But I love that he's a Queen fanboy. At one point, this man was my favorite video game director, but then they gave him Final Fantasy 12 and it pretty much gave him a nervous breakdown that he never recovered from. So that also makes me sad. But yeah, this is the latest version of my favorite game of all time. So of course I was going to love it. How could I not? Paul, I know this isn't in your wheelhouse, but Ray, did you play this one at all?
No, whenever somebody says Final Fantasy, I check out. I just do not. I'm sorry. I feel like the series. I feel like that series in every way, shape, and form jumped the shark many years ago, and I'm just so yeah. I completely was like, I passed on it.
I mean,
even as somebody who likes strategy games, I was just like, nope, could care less. Nope, bye.
It's so different now. Like Final Fantasy is so many different things, whether it's the mainline games, the MMOs, so it has become a massive thing. But to me,
Raymond,
this is the best.
I have a question for you, Raymond.
Shoot.
So you said you've played, how many times have you played this game on different platforms?
I played it on 4 platforms, but I've gone through it several times on each platform.
Okay. How does this version of the game stack up compared to the other ones? Is it the best one? Is it the worst one?
Well, I mean, it's the newest one. I mean, it has voice acting.
I could see you saying this one is better than the PlayStation 2 because of this and this, or it is the not best as good as the.
They make quality of life improvements that speed things up because some of these battles can take, if you're really picky about how you execute your moves, you can spend more than an hour on just one battle. So they do things where they speed things up. The voice acting is obviously a new thing that they recorded for this, which was good and bad because some of the characters, I've known these characters since I think the late 90s is when the first one came out. So they sound a certain way in my head, and they have for decades. And sometimes the voice actors match up, and sometimes they're different from the sound in my head, which is always an unusual thing. But
okay, so this wasn't it wasn't like when they remade, say, Resident Evil 2, and they really rebuilt it from the ground up. This is more okay.
The core is still the same. The core gameplay is just the classic turn-based job system battles.
Right. Okay.
But they can be faster if you want. But if you're an old school player like me, then you can spend an hour on one battle if you want. So I like that it gives you more of those options.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether this was, because sometimes when people put out new versions of old games, they update them to modern standards. But I don't think people really do that with, especially something like this, where it's a turn-based and the camera angle doesn't really matter as much, and you're not replacing tank controls for more intuitive camera controls and stuff.
I will say that I probably liked playing on the iPad the least because I like to play or read my iPad before I'm going to sleep. And sometimes the battles would just last a really long time and I would doze off and drop the iPad on my head. So that is never fun. But yeah, playing it on a proper couch with a proper controller that does not fall on your head is probably a more enjoyable way to play this. Now, Ray, let's go with your runner-up, which we will probably be seeing again later, methinks.
Yes. Yeah, I think that no surprise. I think we're going to have a little bit of overlap here on our list as at some point. But yeah, this was close. This was very close for me to being Game of the Year, and I only put it at number 2 because it was to me slightly worse than Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, it's very much splitting hairs, but I loved Ghost of Yotei. I felt that I thought the world was beautiful. I thought the story was phenomenal. I mean, you see here, obviously, looking at Mount Fuji. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this game in general didn't get enough love this year. I don't know if it's because people are starting to get exhausted of the feudal Japan setting, which seems to be like every other open world game at this point. But I felt that this one, I think it was incredibly polished. I felt the gameplay was really, really well done. My only two minor complaints, was I felt you could do more with the grappling hook in the first game. Whereas here it was much more just of a climbing tool. Whereas in the first game, your grappling hook, like I remember there were times where I would swing into battle on my grappling hook and then come down on guys with my katana. Whereas here it was very much limited to just a climbing tool. And then also I felt the difficulty here. I felt like they fell into a classic gaming trope, which is just, let's give the enemies more health as you get later in the game to make them more difficult. Whereas I felt the first game did a better job of actually scaling the AI to be like smarter and deflect and parry more and like actually like extend the battles in that regard. Where it's just like here, it's like, here's a guy in armor. Man, it's like, but I mean, like, I'm really nitpicking here. I think that one of the villain of this game was I think probably one of the best villains of the year. I feel that and I love the idea of course, hunting down multiple enemies, giving a list at the beginning. I just love that kind of constant feeling of progression. And yeah, again, it was a beautiful game. And I think that overall it was, aside from my number 1 game, I think the most complete experience I had from an audio standpoint, gameplay standpoint, story standpoint this year. So yeah, Ghost of Yotei was number 2 on my list.
I did not get to play this game, but I'm a big fan of this studio, and I'm surprised to hear about the grappling hook stuff because they should know grappling hooks between the last game and all the Sly Cooper stuff. I mean, that's kind of what they're awesome at.
Yeah.
Among other things. It's Sucker Punch for those of you who are not familiar with the studio, but
I have a good story about the studio.
Hold that, but I wanted to ask Ray about the art because some of these backgrounds, just like, this is ridiculous.
Oh, gorgeous. Just absolutely. Yeah. Much like the first game. I mean, what they do with the elements and with flower petals and fights on the beach and fights on a mountaintop as the snow is swirling around you. I mean, the art direction for this game is just it's just simply breathtaking. I absolutely, yeah, again, I could get lost in this world and taking screenshots on my PS5 just all day long.
We got to have a timeout here. I think Ray is trying to plant earworms in my head when he mentioned grooves earlier, and then Madonna's Get in the Groove was stuck in my head. He mentioned fights in the beach, and then Ace of Spades, Sex on the Beach was in my head.
You might want to see a psychiatrist about that, Raymond. I don't know why I don't know how those terms are suddenly you're triggering those musical thoughts for you. I don't know why, but no, there's no musical. I was not trying to plant musical notes for you with these gameplay talks. I
don't want Ace of Base in my head ever again if I can help it.
I forgot they even existed till you mentioned them. Like I never crossed my mind to think of 90s pop music with.
Well, that's the band that I probably hate the most that ever existed. It's either that or those idiots that sang Who Let the Dogs Out that I want to torture.
Oh, the Baha Men.
The Baha Men, yeah. So, I mean, or maybe they could fight in a steel cage. I don't know. Aren't they? Ace of Base is like Norwegian or Sweden. There's some.
I think they're Swedish.
Swedish.
You tell me.
I don't know. Now this middle section will be interesting because both of you have access to a lot more games than I do and just play a lot more games than I do. I've slowed down in my older age, but also I spend more time playing guitar. I want to hear about your honorable mentions, games that disappointed you, or games you just didn't get to, of which I don't know. It seems like Ray plays every game every year, so I'm not even going to bother with that one. Paul,
there are a couple of games that I haven't gotten to yet that
Okay.
unfortunately I will probably get to over Christmas break. So
yes, that is a great time for it.
yeah.
Paul, you had some things on your list for this section. What did you want to talk?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I guess for the other games that I sort of considered for this were the game Avowed, which is a fantasy adventure game made by the same people that made The Outer Worlds. I really liked this game a lot. It was a lot of fun. And I liked it oddly more than The Outer Worlds 2, which is odd for me because I tend to like science fiction more than fantasy. Some other ones that I really enjoyed, the new Sniper Elite Resistance. I always love shooting Nazis. South of Midnight was a lot of fun. That I think I just read that that's going to come to PlayStation next year. It's definitely
they announced it at the Game Awards. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That one's a very unique, interesting sort of Tomb Raider-ish action adventure game. I'm looking at my list here. Let's see. Blah 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 blah. Oh, Death Stranding. Although I'm going to get into that one in a minute. The remakes of Metal Gear Solid 3 and Onimusha 2 were both really, really good. There were add-ons for 2 of last year's best games, Star Wars Outlaws and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Both of those were really, really good. This very obscure, weird, no one ever heard of it thing called Alien. They had a game for that called Alien Rogue Incursion Part 1 Evolved Edition. I don't know who came up with that name, but it happened to be a 2D version of a VR game, and it worked really, really well. That was a lot of fun. I'm excited for the second half of that. Ninja Gaiden 4, also really fun. On the flip side of that, some of the bigger disappointments for me were a game called My Friendly Neighborhood, which was trying to be like Resident Evil on the set of Sesame Street.
What?
Yeah. I'm not joking about that. It like the whole idea was like it was a survival horror game, but you're on the set where they shoot a kids show, and like you're getting into fights with like guys in like not guys in Muppet costumes, but like giant Muppets, and like there was like a weird Big Birdie kind of it. Like I hate when somebody comes up with a great idea and they just botch it hard. And that's what this was. This really just didn't work at all. Like the basic mechanics just didn't work. And that was a big disappointment. Another big disappointment for me was a game called Void Train, which could have been a really cool BioShocky kind of trippy shooter, but they decided to get really, really complicated with certain aspects that didn't need to be overly complicated. Like there's this whole thing where you have to build parts to a train. Okay. Except it's not like, oh, you found nails and wood, now you can make a table. It's like you have to find the things to make the forge, and then once you make the forge, you have to forge the metal that you then forge into the nails, and it's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, and I'm not going to spoil it, I mentioned earlier that I really like Death Stranding 2 on the beach. It's really, really cool, really, really interesting game. But it has one of the most ridiculous endings. Now, the action of the ending is fun, but what happens and who it's against is just idiotic and weird. And the thing is, it's Hideo Kojima, and you expect a certain level of weirdness from Hideo Kojima, but this was even too weird for like, it was so sort of weird that it didn't fit the rest of the game. And like again, I don't want to spoil it, but when I was sitting there watching it and I was like, really? Like nobody said to him, like, this is too much. He didn't say to himself, okay, yeah, I see it now. This is getting ridiculous.
Maybe it's like a Taika Waititi situation where nobody's gonna tell him no. Just like
I think it is that, and it's funny too because when he left Konami, I remember talking to people about the fact that like I thought that could be a good thing for him, but I also thought it could be bad because Konami had very clearly like sort of given him guardrails and like didn't let him
Right.
go off the reins too much. And
right.
and the thing is, like if the whole game had been this ridiculous, fine. We've had games that are like Suda 51 makes games that are that level of ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But this just didn't fit the rest of the game, and that game gets weird. It's a weird game, but like this was just, yeah.
So one of the games that made my runner-up list is also a remaster of an old RPG. It's Bravely Default for Nintendo Switch, which I believe I first played on Nintendo DS, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh wow.
So it was good to play that again. I do have a game that I've been meaning to play since the end of last year that I haven't gotten around to. That's Dragon Age: The Veilguard, and it was actually on sale at Best Buy yesterday for $5. I'm like, well, now I have no excuse. So,
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh man,
I'm like, it's $5.
I like that game a lot.
Me too.
It's on. It's funny because I didn't play it till this year because it was they gave it to us free for PlayStation. If you're a PlayStation member.
Right.
And so I played it and I was like, this is really, really fun. And it's funny because one of the things in that game is if you play as a warrior, you get a shield that you get to throw at people.
That's your thing, huh?
It was. And in fact, it's funny because at one point I thought that was going to be like the thing of the year, that like, because there was another adventure game that I played, but I didn't end up liking as much. And again, you get to throw a shield around like you're Captain America, but it was just the three of them.
To be fair to Paul, I very much enjoyed the shield throw in Dragon Age Veilguard as well, because that's what I also used. And also, by the way, you could literally throw Captain America's shield. Marvel Cosmic Invasion just came out. I don't know if you guys have played that yet.
I have not.
I have not played that one yet. Is that the old school one?
The tribute game, the side-scrolling beat 'em up. Yeah.
Okay, because I know there's like two different Marvel games, and I keep getting them confused because one's like a fighting game.
Oh, Tokon's not out yet. The one you're thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, but there was also another one that came out around it was out around the time of the Fantastic Four movie. Because the whole reason I got to go see the Fantastic Four was that the video game people invited me and they were like, "Come play the game," and I'm like, "Okay."
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember what it was, but whatever.
The only thing I remember that came out with the Fantastic Four film was they put them in Rivals at the same time as the movie coming out. I feel like I think they did Fantastic Four season, I think, at the same time. But either way, yeah, no. And funny enough, that mentions Marvel Cosmic Invasion, my number 9 game of the year. Just on there. So, also, Paul, thank you so much for liking Alien Rogue Incursion, the flat screen edition. I just have to put it out there. Paul said that of his own volition. I did work on that game. My name is in the credits. There's nothing shady going on here. Paul said,
yeah, which I didn't know when I played it, and then like I played the game, and I was like, wait, what?
Oh, Paul didn't read the credits. He does not respect.
No. When I played the game and I got to the credits, I was like, oh wait, Ray worked on this game. That's weird.
You don't respect the below the fold guys.
And I was already excited for it because, as Ray and I have talked about, the original game was scripted by an author that I very much enjoy, Alex White, who had written a couple of Alien novels, but also written a bunch of original novels and very cool science fiction writer. And I always like it when video games get like real writers to come in and help out, especially if they have a connection to the thing. So
it definitely adds something. You know, I always go back to, like, again, some of my favorite games of all time are the first 2 Arkham games, and it helps a lot that they were written by Paul Dini, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great example of that.
Yes. Get somebody who is steeped in the lore already so much, right, to come write your game that it helps. It definitely I think elevates any IP, whatever it is. But
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Paul mentioned a lot of the games that I was going to mention actually as well for some of mine because I agree.
Quick aside first. When Paul was talking about being disappointed in a great concept that was poorly executed, that made me think of when I was reviewing WrestleQuest with you, Ray. How that on paper, like a pro wrestling RPG,
Oh yeah,
sounds brilliant, but that game was just poorly made. And
yeah, it just was buggy as all get out. I never finished it because of the bugs.
Yeah,
it was just too broken to finish.
Yeah,
which they might have fixed it by now, but I don't know. But
Ray, close out this section with your honorable mentions. And
so I agree with Paul. For me, DLC of the year was Indiana Jones and the Order of Giants. I think that for me was by far. I actually had Avowed behind. I had Outer Worlds 2 slightly ahead of Avowed. I had Avowed 8, Outer Worlds 2 at 7. I actually did like because much like Paul, I am more of a sci-fi guy, and I think that gave me just the slight edge over Avowed, even though they're both Obsidian. South of Midnight,
and they're very similar games.
Yes, very much so. And so I think it was really just the sci-fi motif that just put me a little bit over the edge for that one. South of Midnight, I agree, should have gotten much more love. I'm glad it did get the Games for Impact award at the Game Awards, because I think Compulsion Games has every game they've made, they've gotten better and better and better. And I think South of Midnight is a game that deserves a lot more love. I think it's still on Game Pass. And again, like Paul mentioned, it's coming to PS5. So if you haven't played it, or either you're going to have no excuse over the next year. I think it was a beautifully written game. The art design was great. It doesn't reinvent the wheel in terms of its gameplay. It's pretty standard third-person action adventure, but I thought it was just a beautifully written game, beautifully made game. South of Midnight. 5. I'm so happy Shinobi is back. Shinobi: The Art of Vengeance. That's that side scroller for me just was phenomenal, and to me much better than the Ninja Gaiden side scroller. They came out within about a month of each other, which it made it feel like it was the early 90s again, where it was Ninja Gaiden versus Shinobi. And much like I did as a kid, Shinobi is better. Shinobi is better. I love that they got the Streets of Rage remake, Streets of Rage 4 guys do the art. I thought it was phenomenal. And then at number 4, I had The Alters, which is another indie game that deserves a lot of love. Not the greatest gameplay, but the story, the idea of having to clone yourself over and over again and have your clones be different versions of yourself, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a botanist, whether it's a scientist, whether it's a mine worker, whether it's a security guard, in order to get yourself off this alien planet, was just such a unique, gritty sci-fi story that I don't think enough people get. I think everybody who's played it loved it, but I don't think enough people played it. And so I'm telling you, go play The Alters. And then probably this leads you into probably the next section, Raymond. I had number 3, Clair Obscur. I had Clair Obscur at my number 3.
Yes.
So
I will dive into that. I'm really happy
I'll tear it apart when you start talking about it. So.
I'm happy you gave Outer Worlds 2 a shout out. Our excellent friend Joe Fielder worked on that. He is a top guy, and I'm glad his game is well received. But yes, as Ray mentioned, my game of the year as an RPG nerd was Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This game was not what I was expecting at all. And I almost wanted to demote it because it's doing so well at various award shows and magazine end of the year roundups that it's almost become like too popular. And as an RPG nerd since I was a kid, I'm like, no, you're not supposed to like this. I'm supposed to like this. Like, it's not for you. But this game is almost perfect to me. I love the gameplay. You can tell that the people that worked on this were Final Fantasy fans, because it kind of has that turn-based style, and it kind of has elements of the ATB system, but it's really refined and updated in a modern way that, a lot of modern RPGs tend to be more action-oriented, but this is still very much turn-based, but with the ATB elements, taken to the next level. So that surprised me. The game's story really surprised me, and it reminded me of my friend from college, Peter, because 90% of the time he would talk about death, to the point where we stopped calling him Peter and we just ended up calling him Death all the time. and you'd be ranting about some aspect of death in the afterlife, like dude, we're at a pub. Like, what are you doing, man? You're dragging us down. But yeah, the game story, it revolves around, you know, the meaning of life, the meaning of death, what defines life and death for you, and the different characters, you know, all have different takes on it, whether, you know, whether your life is the amount of your actions, whether it's the works and you leave behind, you know, things like that. So this troop that goes on various expeditions, they're comprised of different people. You have engineers, warriors, artists, philosophers, you know, all questing on trying to not defeat death, but figure out how to deal with it. And I don't mean death as in a person dying, but death is a larger concept of life. Story was very interesting and complicated, and the voice acting really helped bring it to life. In addition to a lot of really famous voice actors, this game also had Daredevil and Gollum, which was an interesting combination. So now I want to see an adventure with Daredevil in costume with Gollum, CGI Gollum in an RPG.
You know, the way Marvel is going lately, you might.
Yeah.
I mean, I read a comic book, or I'm in the middle of reading it because it's different stories. Godzilla fights the Marvel universe.
Sure.
You know, and they already did like the Predator fights the Marvel universe, and it's like, okay.
Soundtrack is also phenomenal. I mean, I will say the only thing that underwhelmed, I mean, underwhelmed is kind of the wrong word. The only thing I didn't love about the game was the art style, which is, it wasn't bad at all. The art direction is really good, but it's just not what I want in an RPG. You know, Japanese art direction is what I have come to love. So this was perhaps a little too Western for me, but I was really impressed by the game. The studio was, I believe, founded by an ex-Ubisoft member that ended up creating his own studio during COVID. And this is his first game in Sandfall Interactive. So they might be my favorite Western developer, depending on what they do next. Before that would always go to BioWare for me, but BioWare now isn't what the BioWare I loved like 15, 20 years ago. So I'm hoping to see more greatness from Sandfall Interactive. Ray, you had thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, again, I still had this as my third game, top 3 game of the year, right? So I still enjoyed it. I actually disagree with you on the art style. I thought I enjoyed the more Western style, the French late 19th century, early 20th century French era kind of motif. Although the mimes drove me nuts in this game,
as they do to most people.
Yes, yeah. So that got very old very fast. No, my issue with the game that kept it from being my game of the year was kind of what basically the third act of this game. I feel the story falls apart in that. Much like, I don't want to spoil anything for folks who might not have played it, but in typical RPG fashion, we'll say there's kind of maybe a false ending or a false final boss fight kind of moment. And I feel that everything that came after that just did not hit as hard as everything that came before that. I think that if they had instead, because many of your companion missions, much of the stuff that you couldn't explore before the moment finally opens up, I feel if that had come before that final, not really final fight, I think it would have been a lot more impactful. And I feel this is a problem in narrative storytelling in general right now, where people don't necessarily know when to end their game or their movie or their book or whatever. And the same way they also struggle sometimes to kick it off. Like something that I can't stand is the flashback episode in a television series. Now you're seeing that a lot, everything from Acolyte to Alien Earth, where just tell the story in order. Damn it. Just give me the beginning, the middle, and end. I don't need like we're going to start in the middle of the action. Like, to me now it's a gimmick that's done way too much across way too much media. That didn't happen here. But
it can still be done well. Like last week I was talking about Sorry Baby, which was one of my favorite movies of the year. And that is not told in a linear fashion.
I haven't seen it, but yes, it can be. Non-linear storytelling can work, but I feel like a lot of people now are trying it and failing at it. And I feel that this game kind of, if it had put some of its more impactful, especially for your companions, because this is an RPG and you want to feel for them before that final moment, and then you could just go the false final fight into the actual final fight. I felt the narrative order of this would have been much more impactful had they done that. And instead, I felt the third act fell very flat because of the order of events that they chose to go with.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like it can feel anticlimactic compared to what you just did. So it's like, oh, this. I wanted to ask you, and maybe we needed to ask this. I needed to ask this question to a younger person. Not that any of you are old, except Paul. But some of the people that complained.
What did you say, Sonny?
Some of the people complained that the game was too linear, which to me, for a narrative-driven game, I prefer that. Like, I didn't grow up with open world games, so maybe a younger gamer that did, maybe that's their complaint. But for me, I think if you're telling this much story, that you will lose it if you add too many open world aspects to it. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I think I'm kind of with you. Again, I think if they could have opened it up again, I think earlier than they did, but especially early on, you need those first few levels to be super linear to establish the story and kind of get in depth, kind of invest in the characters, and whatnot. So I didn't mind it at all. I think again, I kind of see both sides. I think again, the open world aspect, especially again finishing off your companion quests and things like that, could have come earlier. But I did not mind. I did not mind the early game linearity whatsoever. I think if anything, it actually kind of helped me get invested in the world a little bit, because it is, you kind of are thrown into this world it's a bit bizarre, right? Not Kojima level bizarre, but it's a bit bizarre, the world where everybody's getting every year, a whole generation of people are just getting wiped out by this unknown magic, right? And you have these amazing watercolor world, everything's just kind of like floating around and whatnot, very stylized. So I think the linearity helped me get into it and buy into it early on. So I disagree with the youths out there.
Two youths.
Yeah.
And I'm confident you're still doing this, because when you said bizarre, I was thinking about that How Bizarre song. Who sang that, by the way? I don't even remember the artist. And you said both sides, which is clearly a Joni Mitchell thing. I'm waiting for Ray to sing like, I've looked at games from both sides now. That'll close us out. I know what you're doing, Ray. I see it. Now let us go with your game of the year, which I'm very delighted to see on this list.
As much as Paul loved Doom and the gameplay and how much I loved Donkey Kong. To me, Donkey Kong was just the most fun I've had with a game this year. It's beautiful, and just 15 levels of just smashing everything. I felt the dynamic between Donkey Kong and Pauline was just really wonderful. I loved all the different gameplay mechanics. There's both. It's easy to pick up and play, and it's difficult to master. I love the different animal transformations that you had in this game. Some I preferred more than others. I preferred the zebra personally. I felt was the most fun. But I'm sure there are other folks out there who loved like the King Kong or the ostrich or whatever, which, then there were references to previous Donkey Kong games. I just found this, I just couldn't put it down and was disappointed when it ended. And I really didn't have any other game this year where I felt that strongly, where I was just like, wow, I just had so much fun with this. And I wish I could have played this. I wish there was even more. I just felt, and I'm so happy to see Donkey Kong really get some much needed love after kind of it feels like a decade of silence since the last side scroller that they had from Retro. And I think to bring in a young Pauline, and again, not to spoil anything, but then the end of the game and all that, the final boss. The real final boss, they did the final boss thing right, the fake final boss right here in Donkey Kong, and just to bring that all back, it just was such. pure joy. This game gave me pure joy this year, and to melt my icy heart, for my to find the spark of happiness in the black hole that exists in my chest. Donkey Kong, by far, my game of the year. Easily. Not even close. Nobody else came close for me.
I did not get to play this one yet, but my nephew is playing. Paul, did you get to play?
Nope, I did not. Although it's funny because when I first heard what this game was, I was like, oh, it's not like Donkey Kong Country? I don't care. And now hearing Ray talk about it, I'm like, oh, God damn it.
Yeah.
It's funny, if I look at the screen at a glance and didn't know anything about it, I'm like, wow, Wreck-It Ralph 3 got really weird.
I mean, you do wreck a lot of stuff in Donkey Kong Bonanza. Like, you're constantly, and I'll give them, and this too, right? Like, I was surprised that it didn't get more love because everybody was praising, what was it, Astrobot's particle physics and everything.
Yeah.
And I think Donkey Kong did it just as well in their game. I felt like the destructible environments, the different terrains, being able to literally just pick up anything around you and pick it up and use it as a weapon or throw it to help solve a puzzle. It scratched every itch. It felt like it was Donkey Kong, but it felt like a 3D Mario game, right?
But does he throw a shield in this game?
You can throw, the rocks can be used as shields, and then you can throw them. So sort of.
All right.
Maybe. And some of them blow up. Some of the rocks blow up.
I'll allow it.
Well, I'm more excited to play this now. It sounds like it has the charm in both gameplay and storytelling that we have come to love from Nintendo over the last few decades. Very excellent. I'm very excited. And Paul, close us out with your favorite game, which was Ray's second pick.
Yes, Ghost of Yotai. I also was a huge fan of Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know that I liked this one better, less, or more than that. I think they were equally entertaining. You know, I love, like we talked about a lot of the aspects already. There's a couple things that I would point out. I loved how this kind of buys into a lot of Japanese folklore. Like there's it gets a little it's a little interesting. Like you're just walking around and there's a fox and the fox is like, hey, follow me and I'll show you something cool. And then you get to pet a fox, which you probably shouldn't do. And then there's all this stuff with the wolves where you help a wolf and then the wolf will come help you. And then you can hang out with the wolf, which again, don't really do that. The other thing though, that I wanted to talk about, and this is not something that made the game more fun directly because it's not an action, but okay. So in the game, as in Ghost of Tsushima, there's times when you find these hot springs, and you want to get in the hot springs because when you do, your health bar gets bigger, which is of course helpful. But when you do, you take off your clothes because that's what you do in a hot spring. And one of the things that I noticed right away was that the main character, who is a woman probably 24, 25, she does not look like a stereotypical female from a video game. She does not have a pert ass and flawless skin. She looks like a woman who's been through some shit, which she has. And again, it didn't make the game more fun by being an element of action that you get to do, but story is a big part of this game. And it kind of made the story work better because if she had been, if she looked like one of the women from Stellar Blade or a Ninja Gaiden or something, where she's got the ass of J-Lo and the boobs of Sofia Vergara and the skin of I don't know, pick some random 18-year-old on the Disney Channel, it would kind of take you out of it. And what I think also helped was the voice acting of Erika Ishii. who I think probably the best voice acting that I've heard from in a video game since the first Mass Effect. If you play as FemShep, just a masterful job. And again, because she gave this character a voice that like made you think like, okay, she's been through the ringer. You know, like I said, she's not old by our standards. Like, you know, she's in her mid-20s, but mid-20s back in that era is very different from mid-20s now.
Right.
And again, she's, you know, she's not had it easy. And so like she doesn't have like, again, like a stereotypical gamer girl voice about her. And all of that I think worked really well with the story, and the story was a big part of this game. And even though it told the story that we've seen before, a story of revenge, it's very Kill Bill, it's very, you know, Lady Snowblood, it was told in a really interesting way. It had interesting aspects to it. It made it original. And again, didn't make the game more fun because it was just the story, but it made me care more about the character, which made me want to keep her alive more. Yeah.
And generally in games, keeping your character alive is what you want to do.
But here's the thing with me in games, and I think I say this because I read a lot and I watch a lot of TV and I watch a lot of movies. I don't necessarily go to games for the story. If it has a cool story, great. But if it has a boring story, you can still have fun with a game. Like we talked earlier about Doom. Like, who cares about why you're doing these things? I didn't care. And like, there's tons of games where I've literally gotten bored of the story halfway through and just skipped past it. You know,
right?
I don't remember what's the game with the lady? She looks like a hot librarian. She's got really long hair and a cat suit.
The Capcom game, or
oh god, I can't think of the name of it. But it's like there's some Japanese game where you look like the woman who ran for vice president with the glasses and
Sarah Palin.
Yeah,
Bayonetta.
Bayonetta.
Wow, you two are on the same way.
Boring.
Wow.
Terrible story. But if you skipped it, that was a really fun 5-hour game. But like this game, I was invested in this. I was well invested in the story, and it makes it that much better. So that's where I was going with all of this.
Love it. Yeah, I'm more excited about all these games because of you guys. So thank you for that. Very excited. Looking forward to stuff next year, but we will talk about that later. Let us put a bow on this. Guys, if you want to check out Ray's comedy, there is a link to his Instagram in the Facebook and YouTube descriptions. Also, it's right there in the screen. Paul's website has all kinds of excellent reviews, interviews, and more. Go to paulsemel.com. There's also a direct link to that in the Facebook and YouTube descriptions. We have lots of cool stuff planned for you in January, including some changes that hopefully you'll like, and hopefully they'll be good for the channel as well. Please share your favorite games in the comments, and thank you for hanging out with us. Have an excellent holiday. As I mentioned, this is our last show of the year. We won't be back till January, so enjoy the holidays with your family, whether you're having a Merry Christmas or do you say Happy Kwanzaa? I don't know what the proper greeting
Happy
is.
Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, and what's the other major holiday? I forget what they all are. I don't celebrate any of these things. I'm just going to eat a lot of turkey and a bunch of other food. So I hope you all have wonderful holidays. Ray, Paul, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time on RPadTV. I will make hearts.